As I said in a previous talk, I've visited over 70 countries in the course of my life, some as a tourist, but some in the course of my work. Visiting a country as a tourist can be a great experience and thoroughly worthwhile, despite the increasing scourge of excessive tourism having a serious impact on both the pleasure but also the culture and life of the countries visited. But as I've said previously, to work in a country can be infinitely more rewarding. It enables a deeper understanding of the people, their culture, and in the course of my work, their politics. I was in Syria, for example, at the beginning of the revolution against the Ba'athist regime, and saw at first half some of the tensions and the issues that were involved. And I was in Qatar shortly after the Arab Spring. That didn't directly affect Qatar, but its impact was substantial on the universities with which I was working. One thing that I've observed in the course of my work abroad, but also, though to a lesser extent in England, is that if you want something done well, you should ask a woman to help you do it. Now that's something that I've observed pretty well everywhere in the world. There's no question in my mind that women tend to be more diligent and effective, but also better educated by and large. It's astonishing to know that there are more women in higher education in almost every country in the world than men, whether you're talking about Saudi Arabia, the United States or South Africa. I was disconcerted, though, when I made this observation to a young woman in Abu Dhabi who was helping me with my work, who replied that she agreed that women were more effective in their work than men, other than in one respect. Men were better leaders, she said. Women were not cut out to be leaders. It was no use pointing out to her that some of the most successful leaders, Angela Merkel, Margaret Thatcher, Indira Gandhi, Mrs. Megawati in Indonesia, were women. No matter what you thought of their politics, there's no question that they were strong leaders. But she was not moved. And although I was shocked, I accepted that as a cultural point of view, that was how it was, which I hope, though, will change. Another observation. We choose our friends, not our family. And in the West, as we get older, perhaps family seems to become less important, and we get closer to our friends, but the family are always there, whereas friends come and go. There is a bond in a family, and it's important and unbreakable. That shows itself especially when you see children who have drifted away from their parents, nevertheless feeling the obligation to look after them when they become old and infirm. Unfortunately, that seems to apply especially to daughters. Now that's positive, but it can be very damaging as well. The number of lives, especially women's lives, put on hold or even blighted by their perceived duty to care for their elderly parents can be tragic. On the other hand, coming as I do from Iran, from an Iranian background, but having lived in Europe for over 70 years, I'm nevertheless struck by the difference in the attitudes to family. My mother grew up in a large family that included many brothers and sisters, parents and even grandparents. Each had their role and was respected. The contrast with the West, and even with 21st century Iran, is striking. I'm not saying that the traditional non-European attitudes to family is the right one, but it certainly has its advantages. And the differences can cause problems. I have an acquaintance who married a Chinese girl. Their different expectations with regard to parents in old age became readily apparent when she assumed that her parents would be coming to live with them at some point, an expectation that certainly wasn't shared by her husband. Sadly, the difference in perspective was too great for the marriage to withstand. Another cultural observation is that education is traditionally and rightly been seen as a way of improving your position in society and enabling you to move on. I've been particularly struck by the Palestinians that I've met around the world, and I mean around the world because so many of those are in diaspora, who have been among the best educated people that I've met anywhere. The other thing that I can say about Palestinians is how easily they seem to settle into whatever country they're living in, and they move from country to country as well. These are true citizens of the world, and I say that as a positive thing, not as Theresa May, the former British Prime Minister, regarded it when she said, to say that you're a citizen of the world means that you're a citizen of nowhere. I thought that was disgraceful, and I couldn't disagree with her more. The final thing to say on the question of culture is how important it is to be prepared for and to respect cultural differences. Just a small example. My first experience of an Arab country was when I was asked by the World Bank to review the Yemeni university system. On my first day there, I went to the office of the minister and met his secretary, with whom I'd been corresponding very cordially in the previous few weeks. I stretched out my hand to shake hers and met with the polite but firm response, "I don't shake hands." That response no longer surprises me, but it certainly took me aback at the time. So what conclusions do I draw from this random set of thoughts about my experience of cultural differences and culture generally? I'm not really sure, except to say that despite the growing together of the world and the erosion of many of the differences that previously existed, cultural differences remain very rich and are to be respected.